In the news tonight, Jordan describes the UN Security Council's resolution that demanded a halt to all Israeli settlement in the occupied territories as historic, and Palestinian officials say the settlement vote is a victory for international legitimacy. Hundreds of Iraqi Christians flocked to Bartala, retaken from Daesh, to celebrate Christmas for the first time since 2013. And Santa starts his journey across the world to deliver gifts and has so far navigated across much of Asia and is expected to go over Europe and the US later tonight. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. Jordan described the UN Security Council's resolution that demanded a halt to all Israeli settlement in the occupied territories as historic. State Minister for Media Affairs Mohammed Al-Momani said this historic decision expresses the consensus of the international community on the illegality of Israeli settlements and reaffirms the Palestinian people's historic right to live in Jerusalem and its historic lands. He said the resolution is a positive step as it supports the two-state solution that is top Jordanian interest. The UN Security Council's vote demanding Israel halt settlements in the West Bank is a big blow to Israeli policy and a historic day, Palestinian officials said. Last night, the Security Council resolution demanding an end to Israeli settlement building was adopted as the US defied heavy pressure from longtime ally Israel and President-elect Donald Trump for Washington to wield its veto. Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Ariqat said the settlement vote is a victory for international legitimacy and a victory for those who believe in peace. Ariqat said the resolution is a necessary step for addressing a 70-year open wound of the occupation.
It's a historical day. This is a day of hope, a day of peace. This is a victory for those who believe in peace, who believe in the two-state solution, and this is a total defeat for those forces of extremism in Israel who believe in destroying the two-state solution and achieving and sustaining the apartheid regime that they're building in the West Bank. We hope that this clear message to the Israeli people is that they must accept the international community's call to stop settlement activities, to stop the occupation. Occupation and settlements provide no peace and no security, and the only way to peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians is through a negotiated settlement to achieve the two-state solution on the 1967 lines, a state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as its capital to live side by side the state of Israel in peace and security on the 1967 lines.
News of the UN Security Council resolution denouncing Israeli settlements angered some Israelis, while others voiced indifference at the decision allowed by the United States. The U.S. abstention was seen as a parting shot by U.S. President Barack Obama, whose efforts to forge a peace agreement based on a two-state solution of creating a Palestinian state existing peacefully alongside Israel has proven futile. A statement from the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel will not abide by the terms of the resolution. Netanyahu just a few minutes ago said Israel will re-examine its ties with the United Nations after the settlement resolution, including the Israeli funding of UN institutions and the presence of UN representatives in Israel. Meanwhile, residents of the occupied West Bank said they hoped the resolution will be implemented and that it will not just be ink on paper. Here's more.
A moment of celebration for the Palestinians. The UN Security Council passing a resolution demanding an end to Israel's settlement building. The vote passed after the US abstained, in a sign of Washington's fury over Israel's refusal to stop building on land claimed by the Palestinians. But Jewish settlers in East Jerusalem say they'll continue to do what's right for them, regardless of the UN vote.
The UN has never represented the state of Israel. It was always against it. We'll continue, as always, to do what we see right for the benefit of the state and the people of Israel.
In Ramallah, Palestinians said the vote was unlikely to lead to change on the ground.
We really weren't expecting this, but hopefully it won't just be politics talk and ink on paper. We want it to be implemented on the ground.
Any sense of victory for the Palestinians is likely to be short-lived. The resolution's expected to be ignored by the incoming Trump administration.
Over to Syria, where Syrian government forces have launched a new offensive against rebels on the outskirts of the city of Aleppo. The fighting comes after claims by Syrian state television of at least 3 deaths due to opposition shelling of a district, and just 2 days after the Syrian army gained full control of Aleppo city. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said at least 6 civilians were also killed today in airstrikes on the rebel-held town of Atarib, west of Aleppo. Syrian state TV also reported that an explosion caused by a device left inside a school by rebels rocked the eastern part of the city as some residents were returning to their homes. State news agency Sana said the school had been transformed into an ammunitions and explosive devices warehouse left behind by terrorist groups in the Sukkari neighborhood. 33 people were wounded in the blast, 4 of them critically. Meanwhile, Syrian rebels backed by Turkish warplanes killed 68 Daesh terrorists in northern Syria overnight as intense fighting around the town of AL-BAB continued. Rebels supported by Turkish troops have laid siege to the Daesh-held town for weeks under the Euphrates Shield operation launched by Turkey nearly 4 months ago to sweep the terrorist group and Kurdish fighters from its Syrian border. Fighting around Al-Bab has escalated this week with Turkish soldiers and 138 terrorists killed in clashes on Wednesday in the deadliest day since the start of Turkey's Syrian incursion. Hundreds of Iraqi civilians were being transported to camps for displaced people after they fled areas of eastern Mosul, which the army had recently captured from Daesh. Men, women and children were screened by the security forces in the nearby town of Bartala before being transformed to camps on the outskirts of the Kurdish city of Erbil. An official said that nearly 400 people were from the Samah, Intisar and Al-Quds neighborhoods in eastern Mosul. The terrorist group has stepped up counterattacks on the Iraqi forces in eastern Mosul. Residents who have fled said the situation was dire with their supplies running out. According to the International Organization for Migration, nearly 100,000 people have fled the city. Still in Iraq, hundreds of Iraqi Christians flocked to Bartala, a northern town in Ninawa Governorate, recently retaken from Daesh terrorist group, to celebrate Christmas for the first time since 2013. They were bused into town from Erbil, where they have lived for more than 2 years, to attend the lunchtime service in the Assyrian Orthodox Church of Marat Shmoni. Bartala, once home to thousands of Assyrian Christians, was emptied in August 2014 when it fell to the group's attack across large parts of Iraq and neighboring Syria.
For the first time in 3 years, Christmas bells are ringing in Bartella. Iraqi forces recently retook the town near Mosul from Islamic State. The town was home to thousands of Assyrian Christians, but most fled in 2014 when the militants overran large parts of Iraq. Now residents like Shurut Tawfiq are home for Christmas.
This is the best day of my life. I'm so happy to be back in my area and to my church. No matter what those rats Islamic State do, they'll never keep us from our homes.
Iraq's Christians are emerging from a nightmare. They were harshly persecuted under the Islamic State and given an ultimatum: pay a tax, convert to Islam, or face execution. Bishop Musa Shamali said the celebrations are bittersweet.
Today we're experiencing a mixture of sadness and happiness. We had hoped that life would be back to normal, but Islamic State destroyed many holy places that brought together the children of this nation.
With Bartilla badly damaged, it will be some time before the residents can fully return. But for a few days in Christmas at least, life feels a little more normal in this ancient Christian town.
And still in the spirit of Christmas, U.S. President Barack Obama wished Americans a Merry Christmas for the last time in his capacity as U.S. President. Joined by First Lady Michelle in his final annual address, the Obamas reflected on their honor of serving the American people over the past 8 years and the progress that has been made. The President and the First Lady also recognized U.S. troops and their families for their service.
The greatest gift that Michelle and I have received over the last 8 years has been the honor of serving as your President and First Lady. Together we fought our way back from the worst recession in 80 years and got unemployment to a 9-year low. We secured health insurance for another 20 million Americans and new protections for folks who already had insurance. We made America more respected around the world.
As always, many of our troops are far from home this time of the year, and their families are serving and sacrificing right along with them. Their courage and dedication allow the rest of us to enjoy this season. That's why we tried to serve them as well as they've served this country.
So as we look forward to the new year, let's resolve to recommit ourselves to the values we share. And on behalf of all the Obamas, Michelle, Malia, Sasha, Bo, and that troublemaker Sonny, Merry Christmas, everybody.
And we wish you and your family a happy and healthy 2017. Thanks, and God bless.
And less than 2 hours and it's officially Christmas, and Santa has started his journey across the world to deliver gifts to the good boys and girls on his list. In what is an annual tradition, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, a U.S.-Canadian operation based in Colorado Springs, is tracking the jolly red-robed globetrotter as he zips the world in his sled with his trusty reindeer crew. NORAD says it can keep up with Santa's swift pace by using satellites and an infrared sensor to detect heat signatures from Rudolph's nose as he helps pull Santa's sleigh across the sky. So far, Santa has navigated his reindeer across much of Asia and is expected to go over Europe and the U.S. later tonight. But for those eager to track Santa, you can count down the hours on the Track Santa clock on www.noradsanta.org. And we go to sports, where former England head coach Sam Allardyce has been confirmed as the new manager of English Premier League side Crystal Palace. Allardyce, who previously managed Bolton Wanderers, Blackburn Rovers and West Ham, takes over from Alan Pardew, who was sacked earlier this week. His new role means Allardyce returns to football for the first time since losing his position as England manager after just one game earlier this year in the wake of a newspaper investigation which featured a video of him offering advice on how to get around FA rules on player transfers.
Something that we may look at in a little bit more depth. And areas I think that over the last few days, not only the goodwill messages from friends.
Right. I'll bring it in next week. Hey, that's fine. Yeah, I'll give it.
Barcelona forward Neymar led a team of Brazilian celebrities to a 39 victory over Atlético Mineiro's Robinho and friends in a charity match in Sao Paulo. The teams also paid tribute to the Chapecoense Soccer Club. Proceeds from the game were to be donated to charity organizations, including Neymar's Instituto Proyecto Neymar Jr. Neymar scored 4 goals in the end-of-the-year charity match, putting his side, called Osadia, over Robinho's Pedalada 39 in front of more than 25,000 fans. And finally, cold and cloudy conditions are expected to prevail across the kingdom, with rain accompanied with thunder and lightning, and the winds southwesterly to northwesterly moderate. Frost formation is also in the forecast over the hilly areas, the Badia region and the eastern plains. As for tomorrow, it will continue to be cold as temperatures drop further, with a chance for rain in most regions. Winds will be southwesterly moderate to brisk, raising dust in the desert areas. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a fair day tomorrow, while winds will be northerly light and the seas slightly high. Now look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Jordan describes the UN Security Council's resolution that demanded a halt to all Israeli settlement in the occupied territories as historic. And Palestinian officials say the settlement vote is a victory for international legitimacy. Hundreds of Iraqi Christians flocked to Bartala, retaken from Daesh, to celebrate Christmas for the first time since 2013. And Santa starts his journey across the world to deliver gifts and has so far navigated across much of Asia and is expected to go over Europe and the US later tonight. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Abdul Khan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night and Merry Christmas.